Hi, good morning again. It's Kevin Byrne. I'm talking about the local economy in far north Queensland this morning, and talking about maybe a likely scenario in 12 months' time as to where the tourism industry in particular is likely to sit. And I think we need to put the realistic hat on, and because in our industry, or in the tourism industry generally, there's a lot of positive talking about marketing and so on. The tourism industry, up until we went into this pandemic at the start of the year, was roughly worth about $3.5 billion to the local economy, the regional economy. We're not going to see anything like that by the end of this at the end of this financial year. The hit to the economy will be of the order of well over $1 million. For the next year or so, the likely scenario is that we'll be hovering around $2 billion annual contribution. So we're talking about a rebuild of the tourism industry in our part of the world moving forward. Sadly, the pandemic will give an opportunity for the industry to reassess where it's going. It will give us an opportunity to be realistic and sit there and say, where is my business going to come from? What does that business look like? And who is that business? These are the questions that anybody associated in the industry needs to be asking themselves now. The easy option, of course, is to ask the government to keep propping everybody up. That's not going to happen. The government has a limit to how much assistance it can give in terms of JobKeeper and JobSeeker. And we need to understand that. There is no point standing in a queue like everybody else saying with their hand out, expecting it to be filled forever and a day. It won't happen. And the government seriously has a responsibility to ensure that the nation keeps surviving and the whole of Australia keeps surviving. So any thought that because we live in far north Queensland and we might live in Cairns that we will be a special case, think again. That is not necessarily how it's going to pan out. When we look at it in realistic terms, we're not going to get back to anywhere near the international numbers we had at the end of last year for the next 2 years. So we will take a hit in international tourism for the next couple of years of the order of 60%. We will get about 40% of the international tourists that we anticipate. That's the fact. That is the most likely scenario as we sit here. So what does your business look like? Is it possible that you're going to survive? And you need to look at that realistically. The government cannot and probably will not be supporting zombie businesses for the next couple of years. In fact, they won't do it. They will tighten up on all of this. So the question then becomes whether you cut and run now or whether you hang on. I'm sitting in a wonderful place here at the moment that's had a lot of money spent on it by some people who had the substance to be able to do that a couple of years ago. And they've been hit hard. And they will tell you that we have to really reevaluate where we're going and whether our business can survive. They're realists. There are a lot of people out there that are not, and they're saying, look, we'll just keep the money rolling in just to keep our doors open. You ask the question, keep your doors open for how long and when, where are your next people coming from? And they can't answer that. They need to be able to answer that because we need to have a realistic look at the tourism industry here and restructure it to attend to the challenges for the next decade. There will be hotels here and there will be accommodation houses here that will be shut and shut permanently. There's no doubt about that. There will be a serious drop in the demand for high-end accommodation. Those that are substantially established in the marketplace no doubt will survive. Those that are not, they're going to have a hard time. So We need, as an industry, to really ask the hard questions of ourselves and reposition where we need to go. Let's look at the Great Barrier Reef, for example. Many of the operators that have been successful on the Great Barrier Reef, and their household names, run large operations, people that queue for wonderful buffets on board, that sort of things. Is that model going to be the model moving forward? It's a bit like aviation. Aviation have responded very quickly and said the A380, the 747s and so on won't be part of the future aviation mix, so they're all parked. They will be disposed of. Aviation will undergo change. Will it be operating out of hubs around the world, or will it be more point-to-point services? I suggest it may be the latter, with more fuel-efficient aircraft, longer legs, but fewer numbers on board. So there's going to be a whole change as to how tourism is going to be managed throughout the world. We need to look at where our markets come from and in what priority those markets might open to us. And we also need, in places remote as far north Queensland is to the rest of Australia, looking at the market strategies of where we're going in the next year, how much of that market that would normally go to, say, Fiji or Phuket in Thailand or Bali, in Indonesia, how much of that market, that Australian market, we can attract here, and what the focus is on the marketing dollar going forward. So there is enormous challenge, but that is now the success of where we go will be dependent on how we as an industry here will respond to that challenge. But I will say again that we need to be honest about it. We need to assess our position in that market and whether we need to change where we're coming from and where we're going to, because it's certainly not going to be business as usual. We will not snap back into where we were a year ago or 2 years ago. We need to collectively look at ourselves and look at our industry and come up with the best options moving forward.